According to Pew Research, the number of Americans who consider themselves Christian dropped approximately 8% in 7 years. Pew says while the drop in Christian affiliation is particularly pronounced among young adults, it is occurring among Americans of all ages and ethnic backgrounds.
The reality is that we're missing a lot more than just one millennial, and we're missing thousands, hundreds of thousands. And so we really need to stop and take a look and listen and partner with whoever we can to find out how we as a church can better communicate and where we as a church have failed in communicating with these young adults.
Millennials are losing faith. Less than half say religion is very important to them, and just half say they believe in God with absolute certainty. That's compared with nearly 70% of baby boomers.
If you notice, a lot of times us young people are like on our phones, and even though we're at church, doesn't mean we're at church.
As a younger or as a youth, I see the church as judgmental.
I think it's hard being different or not like a typical Christian church.
It's harder to stay in the church because it takes effort. And anything good in life takes effort.
This project is something that really spurred us on to think, really spurred us on to listen, really spurred us on to stop and evaluate who we are and why we do ministry like we do, and if what we're doing is effective or not.
Only about a quarter of millennials attend church service on a weekly basis, compared to more than half of Americans born before 1946.
Most of the time, like, they don't let me talk, or they don't let me finish, or they take what I said completely the wrong way.
I think the way we practice our faith is totally different from the way the older generation grew up practicing their faith.
I think you have to know who you're ministering to, and you're not going to be effective in ministry or getting young people in the church if you can't meet them where they're at.
The disparity in interest, probably. There's a huge gap between what we like to do and what they like to do.
And so following the format of Elisha and Elijah, believing that God has a call on the young people of this generation, of these millennials, and on their lives, and believing that God can still use us as the older generation, we connected with them in a way, in a perspective, and a process that allowed multi-generational mentorship to occur. And that is not just us sharing with them our experience with God in a one-on-one connected basis, but also listening to them about how they experience God and what they want to see in the church and how they view the church as it grows and as it progresses into the future. And so the Elisha Project was really focused upon that biblical narrative and that format, where God took two prophetic individuals who were called to ministry and paired them together, and they learned from one another, and the younger was actually blessed by the relationship from the older. And the project followed that format and went along those lines, where we had them go out and we had them fellowship and we had them spend time away from church, but in a context where they could speak about church and about life, and they could not only have or hear a monologue, but have dialogue with elders in their church, and have the elders listen to them in terms of what they wanted to see and what they felt God calling them to do, who they felt God calling them to be, and how they viewed the church going forward in the future. And frankly, some of the results from the project were pretty eye-opening, pretty astonishing, and very much beneficial for everyone involved.